Hi and welcome back. These guys are doing something
There's a little bit of
weird
man.
already. What's happening?
Here.
I'm feeling a little bit left out, but anyway, thanks for watching this segment. We have invited today Kerwin Rae to our Basic Plan studio, and he's got some really good stuff to share with you. So thanks for coming.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. Can I call you Fran? Because it's
no,
no,
definitely not Fran.
Doesn't like that.
No,
yeah.
doesn't like that.
Okay.
Francisca, Ska,
F-bomb? No?
F-bomb, yeah,
F-bomb,
F-bomb's
yeah.
okay. No Fran.
Okay.
No Franny. Anyway, it's about Kerwin today, and so just quickly, so that if people think, who is this weirdo, maybe can you just introduce yourself for a minute or two?
I'm just a weirdo that lives up the road from these guys, and I'm
This is a very humble intro. This guy's done some amazing things, and we're very lucky to have him here today. So let's cut this. I want to squeeze him while we got him here.
Please, ask anything you want.
You want to say a little bit more about yourself?
Look, I've just spent the last probably 15 years building, selling businesses. And yeah, I've got a little bit of a knack with it when it comes to marketing, sales, as well as the entrepreneurial psychology. So hopefully I can share some of that with you, with your guys today, and give them some real value.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'll post a link about him below the video, so you can check him out as well if you want. Now let's talk about sales, because obviously you cover different aspects of the business, but sales is one of your passions, I believe.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about it. Have you got any tips for our guys?
Yeah, I've got a few tips, but I think it's really important that anyone who's in business now realises that sales is what drives a business. I think sales is probably a skill or a skill set that is very misunderstood, and as a result a lot of people kind of reject sales mentality or sales psychology, because most people don't like to be sold to. Most people, when you ask them, who are the most people that you hate, is typically lawyers, salespeople, and insurance brokers. And
sounds like used car sales.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a very good reason for that. But it's really important to understand the skill set of sales and where it falls into. Obviously, sales is an important role from moving product. You've got to move product to the customer. Sales forms an integral part of a marketing strategy, because sales psychology is very similar to marketing psychology. But sales psychology or sales process is fundamental in team building, because you've got to be constantly selling your team when you're building your team, and selling them on a vision, or getting someone to complete something, or even getting your husband or your wife to do something for you. There's a process.
Yeah, I'm really good at that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
She's very good.
Yeah.
Persuasive.
It's got the process worked out.
I was like that. She's just got to flutter, and whatever you say, honey, I'm there. So look, I think it's really important that people understand that it's a really important skill set for people to master, I think the reason that most people are scared of it is probably for very good reason. I think the early 80s gave birth to like the Tom Hopkins approach and a range of other approaches which were very high pressure, in some cases intimidation and very uncomfortable sales processes. And I think what evolved was dysfunctional sales or dysfunctional selling practices. Yeah. And what that created was dysfunctional buying practices, because then all of a sudden you had people that were, and I don't know if you can relate to this, but I can relate to this every day of the week. Like, people would go and they'd buy something, or someone would sell them something that they didn't need. They would then go home and have someone that was important to them say, "What the hell have you just done? Why did you buy this?" And you get your ass kicked, and you're like, "Damn, why did I do that?" And then you go and you buy it, and then it happens again. You do that, a dozen times, and you start to go to buy something, and all of a sudden you think, "Okay, this ends badly." Why you think before you buy it?
But do you feel like the market has changed, because from that time when there was a lot of pushing and people were pushed to buy, it obviously worked in that market. Do you believe that it's obviously changed how we buy because of things?
I think absolutely. Well, I think the buying habits have evolved, and I don't necessarily think in every situation it's been a good evolution. It comes back to the dysfunctional selling has created dysfunctional buying, and as a part of the process, one of the biggest challenges in selling is having prospects tell you the truth. Because oftentimes prospects will hold things back out of fear that they're going to be sold something that they don't need. And so the process that we advocate and the process that we teach is very much around becoming very clear on what the client's issues are, what makes those issues real, how that impacts their life, where they want to go, and what that's going to do from an impact perspective. Because when you get enough information, it allows you to decide very quickly whether or not what you have will benefit them. And I think the biggest challenge for some people is they sit down with a live prospect and all they see is a dollar sign. They don't see a human being that has the potential, that has problems, that needs a solution, that has the potential to then refer them, 300 more people if they do the right thing.
They're after the quick buck rather than a long-term.
Exactly. And so I think, when it comes to selling or influence of any type, it really comes down to, doing things very differently. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they sell is they sell solutions. And one of the principles that we teach when we teach sales is move off the solution. People do not care, because solutions in my world, they have absolutely no value. Like, solutions literally have no value. because a solution will only ever derive its value from the problem that you solve. If
Yeah.
you have not identified the problem and the cost of that problem,
Mm-hmm.
there's no value there.
Mm-hmm.
So all you've got essentially is a product with some benefits and a price tag, but you've got no real issue, evidence or impact that would motivate someone to actually buy.
That's a really good approach, because
Yeah.
you would see salespeople out there that actually have been taught to sell the solution, but what you're talking about is actually getting the problem first, so understanding the problem that the prospects have, and then finding ways to...
Principle number one, move off the solution. Don't talk about solutions, but again, as salespeople, or if you're in that role specifically, we're used to sitting down with people and saying, and they say, okay, so what have you got? And we just immediately start doing a little tap dance and doing our show. Leave that, yes, dancing is my second skill. And we become conditioned by the buyer, or by the marketplace of buyers, just to behave in that way. And I think one of the most difficult things for a salesperson to do is not talk about a solution, because we all want to talk about what we can do. Yeah. And if you look at some pseudo salespeople, they'll say, okay, so what problems have you got? And they say, well, the problems I've got problems with marketing, I've got problems with sales, and they hear sales, oh, that's what we do. And they jump straight into a solution rather than really sitting back and getting a real clear list of all the issues that they really have, getting real clarity on what those issues mean. Because I don't know about you, but have you ever, maybe you've had this happen where a client's come to you and you say, what's the problem? And you say, oh, I've got a massive problem with my marketing. You say, okay, so when you say marketing, what does that mean to you? Well, we get all these leads, but they're just not converting. And then you sit there and go, that's sales. That's sales.
Yeah, that's your conversations.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that, as a part of the process, the first thing that we do, obviously, I'm just going to assume that everyone here understands the importance of building rapport and, forming a relationship. But in the process, once you start engaging in the sales process, it's really important that we get a really clear list of all the issues that a client has in the context of a specific situation, in terms of what do we do and what we can help with.
Yeah.
Then, make sure we have clarity on what those issues really mean.
Yeah. So you'd advise people to write down, even for themselves, if we're going to sell chiropractic, I'd want to make a list of all the issues that
what are the biggest issues that you've got right now? And when you say that this is an issue, what does that mean in the context of your situation? Because there's this old joke, and that's really bad, and I apologise in advance. It's what I call a dad's joke.
I love your joke. This is a funny man. There's funny things that weren't on the footage here, but I want to hear this.
A lady goes to a lawyer and says, I want to get a divorce. And the lawyer says, okay, does your husband beat you up? And she says, no, I always get up in the morning before he does. And he's like, I don't think you understand. Like, have you got a grudge? And she says, no, we have a carport. And the lawyer's sitting there totally perplexed. He's like, I'm a little bit confused. Are you sure you want a divorce? And she says, I don't want a divorce at all, but my husband says we have problems communicating. And I know it's a really bad joke. It's a really bad joke. But it's a fundamental example of often how people use a specific language, but because we're using a language that we're used to, we assume that we're meaning the same things.
Yeah, that they get us, understand us in our language.
Exactly.
And that's the fundamentals of everything, of every relationship, is actually being able to communicate with different types of people. Because even when I speak to Christo, it's different to how I speak to myself. So you need to be adaptable with anyone in a relationship or in a business relationship.
Absolutely.
Very good.
And look, there's another principle that I'll throw in here, is knowing when to slow down and when not to speed up, when to slow down in specific situations. Because I don't know about you, but when we're going through this process of identifying a whole list of issues, there's a whole range of things that can come up from someone, especially, and not just at this point, but also in any point in the sales process where you're talking to someone and you can just automatically see they're not engaged, they're not there, they keep looking at their watch, they maybe seem agitated. And we have this principle that we use that it's called slow down for yellow lights. And because if you look at what most people do, and you'll get this, you're driving along the road, you see a yellow light, what do?
Yeah. You slow down.
You speed up. He actually does slow down.
Does he? Is it you who speeds up?
Okay. I say to him, come on, let's go.
It's true. Depending where I am. If it is, depending where I am, but you're right.
I love it. Oh, no, I actually do speed up.
He was actually honest by saying slowing down. I usually say, come on, let's go.
But this is what's really interesting. Oftentimes when you're in a sales situation and you notice something that is out of rapport with where you're trying to go, like they're looking at their watch, they look agitated, they're not interested, they're not engaged, they're saying stupid things. Most salespeople in that situation, it's a yellow light, and what most salespeople do is instead of slowing down, they speed up. They talk faster and they ignore whatever the visible signs are, and they spend 45 minutes going through a process that they knew 45 minutes ago they were going to say no to.
Yeah.
And so, you know, important part of the process of at any point in sales is whenever, if you can see it, hear it, or smell it, find a way to say it tactfully. And there's a 3-part process that we teach for that, and we have time, we can talk about that. So yeah, in terms of process, get a list of all the issues, identify what is the biggest issue in their life right now, and then start looking for evidence of that issue. And because someone could say, well, I've got this issue. Okay, well, what lets you know that that's real? And they might say, well, you know, I just think it is. Or they might say, well, I've got all this information, I've got this data, or John told me it's real. Regardless of what makes it real for them, it's important that we find out what that evidence is and find out, is it hard evidence, is it soft evidence, is it anecdotal evidence? Because what we're trying to do here in any sales situation, yes, we're trying to persuade, but we're trying to persuade them to do something that exactly meets their needs. And if you get a list of the issues and you find out what the most important issue is, and then you start drilling down on evidence and they have no evidence, it's not really an issue, it's an assumption. And oftentimes people buy on assumptions only to get home and realise, fuck, oh damn, I really shouldn't have thought this because I didn't need it, but their assumption was. And then instead of them thinking, well, it was my fault because I wasn't clear with the salesperson, it was the salesperson's fault. They sold me something that I didn't need. And once we get clear on what that evidence is, we can then look at, you know, how that impacts the business. And marketing is an easy one. So you might sit there and ask a client, what are the biggest issues you've got? And one of those issues might be sales, it might be marketing, it might be, you know, branding. Okay, marketing is a problem. What's the evidence that's letting you know that problem is real? Well, we were generating 100 leads a month, we're now generating 50 leads a month. Okay, what have you got evidence to support that? Here's a spreadsheet. Okay, that's real. So when you were generating 100 leads a month, how much revenue was the business generating per month? 100K a month. Now you're generating 50 leads a month. How much revenue is the business generating? 50K a month. Right, how long have you had this problem? God, it's been at least 12 months now. Okay, can you do me a favour? Can you get 50,000 times that by 12? Okay, so that's 600,000. So you've got a $600,000 problem.
Really real,
and all of a sudden, you're exactly right. Now we're making something. We found what the issue is. We now are clear that it's real. It's not just an assumption. But we now know what the real impact is of the business. Because, you know, I don't know, like I'm like this sometimes, not so much now, but if I've got a problem in my business, one of the first things I do now is I want to address it. But when you're starting out as a business person, if you've got a problem in your business, the first thing you want to do is ignore it. Because you just think, if I ignore it, maybe if I ignore it for another, it'll just go away. But then you sit down and you go, you've got someone telling you, I've got a $600,000 problem. All of a sudden, boom,
hits home.
Reality hits. And then you're like, holy shit. And so let's fast forward to the end of the sales process. I've got a solution that's going to cost you $10,000. Oh my God, that's ridiculously expensive. Hey, whoa, let's slow down. Yellow light, I'm confused. If it's identified, you've got a problem that's costing you 600 grand, but you're balking at $10,000, I've got to be missing something. So what is it? And then we put it back onto them to tell us what the real objection is. We get a list of issues, we identify the most important one, we find evidence for these issues, we find the impact for these issues, and wherever possible when we look for impacts, it's important that we look for impact from a financial perspective, a relation perspective, mental, emotional, that we find the perspective that has the most impact on them psychologically. Because if you could say, okay, what's a financial, well, it's cost me $600,000. You could see from what, he's like, well, I don't care. Okay, well, how's that affecting your relationship? Oh my God, my wife, you know, she's just
her fancy shoes and
she's busting my butt. Exactly. So now we know where the impact motivation is for them. Okay, so we then move to the other side of the equation, which is, okay, these are the problems, this is the evidence, this is how it's affecting your life. If I could wave a magic wand and create the perfect outcome for you tomorrow, what would that look like? And so then we allow them to create the future reality of what it is that they want.
Nice.
And that gives us a clear indication, can I do that? Can I solve these problems? Can I solve this evidence? Can I help with this impact? But can I take them where they want to go? And then fundamentally from there, okay, well, if I can help you go there, what's it going to enable you to do now that you can't currently do? What's the impact? I'll be able to take holidays. Where would you go? I'd go to Thailand. Who would you take? I'd take my wife and my kids. Oh, can you imagine how it would feel? You're walking down the beach, you've got the sun on the back, you can smell the ocean, hear the kids laughing. You know, that would be a pretty good place to be. And then they're there. And then from there, it's really just a matter of finding out the time frame in which they want to get started. If they've tried to move forward before, what are the constraints, if there's anything that's held them back? How do they actually make their decisions? And do they have a budget for what you're going to propose? And I know we've done this in a very quick way, but it sounds so simple, but it's very fundamentally basic, you know.
Exactly. Like it doesn't actually sound very simple, but it is simple.
It is.
And I think probably what I also take out of it is that it's, you know, it's different because you really get into the client again. You get them. You try, instead of slapping something onto them, you actually try to understand their situation specifically. Absolutely. And because sometimes they come to you and they don't really understand their situation, but you know, talking to a salesperson or talking to someone like you or your team, they suddenly realize, oh, okay, so because I have that problem, this is what's happening in my life, in my business, so it's also helping them get clear on the problem.
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
I love it.
And it's a good relationship model as well, because you can apply it anywhere, because you know you could be having a problem with your partner and you're like, oh, how do I solve this? Okay, honey, so what are the issues that we've got right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you seeing that's letting you know this, what are you seeing that's letting you know this is real? How is this impacting you? How would you prefer me to behave? And if I did that, what would that enable you to do?
Work out exactly what
I think that deserves a high five.
Another high five.
So
seems to be the theme in here, the high five.
It's not, but I think that was a really good
hopefully that wasn't too much in too short a period of time, or too complicated or too simple, but yeah.
I think it was fantastic.
Very good. I think a lot of people could get a lot out of this, just with a little bit of implementation, a bit of action, and implementing exactly what we've learned. There's gold in that. So
for your business and personal relationship. So thank you so much. We'll put a link to Kerwin's website so you can check him out if you want more of his golden nuggets. I don't think so. I know that he's got a lot to share, so check him out. Thanks for
And we got more on the podcast too. If you check out the Basic Bananas radio show, we've just spent a bit of time with Kerwin. He's shared some
really cool stuff. We had a great conversation, so it's worth checking it out.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Cheers. Cut.
If you like this video, please share it on your social media networks. You can share it on Facebook, on Twitter, on Google+. You can even like the video below. And also please leave us a comment below, just so you help us spread the love and share it with your friends and family. Thank you so much.
Yes, and if you would like more marketing tips and tricks for small business, go to basicbananas.com and leave your name and email address, and we'll definitely send you some cool stuff.